as well. Right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the today's meeting of the Employment Committee. I'm afraid to tell you we are not being live streamed because we're continuing to have technical gremlins, and I believe the cameras won't point at councillors when they speak, except for myself. But apart from that, you are being recorded, and it'll be rebroadcast at a future date. Could everybody please make sure their mobile phone is on silent, because it's good practice. I can't see anybody here who is a member of the public, so we won't go through the fire drill. Item 2, apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Shepherd. Any other apologies, Maria? No. Item 3, the minutes. I will move the minutes from the chair because they seem fine to me. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Mrs. Tromans. So all those in favour of the minutes? That is unanimous. I'll sign those. Declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations that are not in the agenda? Oh, Councillor Green.
Yes, today I've been appointed a director of the Holy Spirit Multi-Academy Trust in Nuneaton and Bedworth.
Okay. Congratulations, Councillor Green. I don't think it's material to the business under consideration. Item 5, public consultation. Do we have any notification to speakers, Maria? No. So item 6, can I ask our head of HR to present our HR policy documents?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. So item 6 is the review of the authorised leave policy. So the policy has been in place for some time. This review looks to bring about some consistency in the approval process and also reflect some changes in statutory entitlements to certain leave.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Does any member have any comments on the document at hand? I think Councillor Brown might. He's just finding his place in his papers. Yeah, Councillor Brown. Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. I think, having read it, I think it's pretty fair and comprehensive. So I'll propose that from the chair. Is there a seconder? Councillor Green. So in which case, all those in favour? That is unanimous. So we move on to item 7, which is our HR metrics data. Ruth, would you like to take that away?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the standard report that comes to Employment Committee each time we meet. So it's just a summary of some of the key HR data. Just to note as well, there is the data that is starting to be included for recruitment KPIs in there, which is in its infancy, but it has started to show some trends on there. So happy to take any questions or comments on the report.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the data, Ruth. It's very useful. I can see there have been a few additions, which is very helpful. On the return to work interview compliance, it does appear that there's been a very minor drop in compliance. Is there any background to that or why that is happening, please?
Okay, so in summary, the return to work is based on calendar days currently, based on our current system. So during the period in question, there were quite a few bank holidays, which might explain some of that. For the committee's information, we are moving from our current provider for absence management. Imminently, on the 1st of October, we will transfer system, and that system is capable of capturing work patterns and actual working days. So the return to work compliance will count from the actual return to work date. So hopefully, you should see an improvement.
Just a question. I noticed there's a policy in place which is very good about time off for volunteering. Is that something which council officers take up?
Okay, so time off for volunteering is actually a new addition to the authorised leave policy in recognition of the King's coronation this year. We've had a number of queries in the past about time off for volunteering, but as the policy is not yet in force, we've not taken that on board. Again, the new system for monitoring absence will also monitor the other reasons for authorised leave, so we'll be able to report on that going forward.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the recruitment and retention section, Ruth, looking at staff turnover, we have the percentages there. Do we break that down any further to look at things like length of service?
Yes, so the report that we run looks at gender, length of service, whether, you know, it was in a probationary period, for example. So if the committee would like further information, I can provide that.
So I think that'd be quite useful, because if people are leaving because they've been here for 50 years and they're retiring, it adds a bit of context to the data. So I think that's a good point, actually. Anything else? Anybody else wants to raise? So I had a request for you, Ruth. Could we start, because I'm reading this, it might be more useful to do year-on-year comparisons if we had some of the more year-on-year data. So we've got the data this meeting to the end of Q1 FY 23-24, but we're dealing with the prior year data, the whole previous financial year's data. So would it be possible to, when presenting this, to give us 21 up to presumably next time Q2 and 22 and 23, so we can do a proper comparison and see the trend? Would that be okay?
Yes, Chair, that's possible. I can provide it in charts as well if that's helpful for peaks. But yeah, that's all possible, definitely.
I'm a simple politician, so charts are always helpful. Does anybody else have anything they want to raise on this? Councillor Jones?
Just to satisfy myself completely. Looking at recruitment, again, time to recruit, it does appear to be showing quite a positive trend there. The average time to recruit seems to be falling, which is good news. What input do HR have in setting the process or supporting the process for managers to make sure that it is timely?
This was something I was going to raise, because it was a similar sort of thing. I mean, are we sort of proactive in training our managers on that sort of thing? Because I think we've got quite a lot of officers who are very good at their technical role, but there's also a managerial element to that. So someone might be absolutely brilliant at financials or regeneration or planning, or how not to. I say that as a topic, not rather than picking on people, but they might not appreciate that. Oh, actually, I've got to get out there and get on LinkedIn or however it is you hire people these days. Are we proactive in that way in terms of training people? So just pick up Mrs. Trames.
Okay, so I'll take the training point if I can first, Chair. So recruitment and selection training is mandatory for managers, and at least one panel member needs to be on recruitment and selection training. HR can also attend the panel and help with questioning and testing as well, which we quite often do. In terms of proactive, my HR team will chase quite actively so we set ourselves sort of a service level agreement internally for ourselves, so we will try and get shortlisting results back within 2 working days, etc. Because we have quite a electronic system, we're able, you know, there's no manual input in terms of printing off application forms. They all just get sent electronically. So yes, there is quite active chasing from there.
And just to clarify, because I know we're doing a piece of work on the internal staff mapping, for want of a better word, is that is that on the vacancy basis, or is that on the basis of when the line manager has sort of raised the recruitment request? Because I know that's not always the same thing here. Is it?
So in our recruitment policy, obviously there's a recruitment approval process, but there is also guidance, and also our HR business partners support managers in not necessarily like-for-like recruitment, to look at all options in terms of internal secondments, or whether the role can be an apprentice, all and every option, and that includes looking at the best application process for that post if we do advertise.
So I think these are just for noting, so we will note those and move on to item 8, which is the changes to the Employee Code of Conduct, which have come from our colleagues on the Audit and Standards Committee.
Thank Thank you, Chair. So this report is a review of the Employee Code of Conduct following some audit recommendations. It has been approved by the Audit and Standards Committee as is, and this committee is required to recommend that it moves forward to full council for formal approval.
Yes, tomorrow's full council, so we've got rather a limited time to do that. Does any member wish to speak or comment on this? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I think this came through audit, possibly on my first session sitting on this committee. So now looking at this again with a fresh pair of eyes, if you like. Page 47, para 5B10. If we look at bullet point D, do we really want to publish every employee's declaration on the website? So every bin man, for want of a better word, having their declaration of interest on the website. So I think it would be much better if the council was to hold and maintain a register of every employee's declaration, but that we only publicise on the website those at the most, the most senior grades, perhaps head of service level, perhaps and above. Which one puts the information onto the website that's actually of real interest to the public, and protects the privacy, shall we say, of everybody else. Because realistically, is it appropriate for every little housing officer's declaration of interest to be out there in the public domain? Because we know full well that there are people who are more than capable of misusing that information, and I think it's part of our duty of care to just put out there what the information that really needs to be out there. But I don't know if anybody else would take that on board.
That's a very good suggestion, Councillor. Are you moving that as a formal amendment then, to make sure that our committee clerk has the wording of that?
Happy to so move, Chair.
Do you
Do you want me to read out my thoughts?
That might be an idea, just so Maria's got it, so
Okay.
it can be passed to full
I-
council tomorrow.
Unfortunately, I dropped my agenda at the wrong point, so I've had to find the point here. Paragraph 5B10, bullet point D, amend to read, the council will, shall we say, hold and maintain a register of all employee declarations, and will publish on the council's website those declarations at head of service level or above. Does that sit well with you, Ruth, as from a point of view of somebody who's professionally involved in this type of thing?
Yep, that would fit well with the policy.
I think I made my explanation when I was setting it out that perhaps if I'd been a bit more alert on the day audit and standards, this might not have happened.
I think that's a very good suggestion. Very supportive of the principle of it, just from a governance perspective and a transparency perspective, because the senior officers, I always say it's for the members to decide, but the senior officers do shape a lot of the advice that members receive, so it is appropriate. I think that there is a proper register kept and published for those. But as you say, Councillor Brown, some of our more junior clerks or whatnot, if they've got a timeshare or something somewhere, the public don't really need to know about that, and you don't take on that kind of job expecting to have your name published in such a public forum. So I think we can, if the committee are agreeable, we can take that to full council as an amendment to the policy tomorrow night. So, did you want to say anything else, Councillor Brown, or we have to? Right. In which case, all those in favour? That is unanimous. Right. Brilliant. So. Item 9, we have an update on the progress with our people strategy. Ruth, would you like to?
Thank you, Chair. So this is an update on the various work streams that are underway with the core principles of the people strategy. It's a summary, but work is ongoing and progressing well. So happy to take any comments, and obviously within the recommendations, it is suggesting, well, I'm not sure whether it does, but suggesting that this is reviewed every 6 months with the Employment Committee.
Does any member wish to come in and comment at this point? Councillor Green, I think your hand went up first.
Obviously, earlier in the agenda, we noticed mental health is still the main driver of sickness. So I applaud this because it should help to alleviate some of the issues we have with mental health. So I think this is a good step in the right direction.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. One thing I would particularly like to draw attention to is paragraph 4.2, recognition of good performance and attitude. So often we only hear about criticism of the council and its employees, especially on social media and things. Yet we have people here who perform at a really high level. I think it's so important that that is recognised. If anything, we were talking earlier about interviewing skills and things like that. If anything's going to drive somebody to want to do better, to go for continuous development, if you like, it's the fact that it be recognised. It doesn't always have to be a monetary reward, but you know, people feel a lot better if you just say thank you and give them a pat on the back. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Right, so I had a couple of comments on this. I think it's a very good document. As Councillor Brown says, it's excellent that we're pushing once again to really recognise people, and development and training is something we really need to get. But it's very much in our interest to develop our workforce, not least because we have trouble sometimes expanding it with recruitment. One of the things I wanted to raise was under point 7. We've had this issue of fostering a diverse and inclusive workplace again. We've raised this before and it's been amended since then. I would suggest that we don't shoot for a diverse workforce in itself. The reason being that it's a very firm belief of mine that if we make equal opportunities based on merit, we will get a diverse workforce, whatever. So I would suggest we take that out. And I'd also request that we put in a more I think we should define the term inclusive, because I think I know what you mean, Ruth, which is we want a workplace where people are welcome and they enjoy being here and it's a good place to work and everybody is recognised. But I'm just very conscious that the terms D&I, diversity and inclusion, they're very loaded now and they could mean other things. So could we define that? And I would suggest that we amend that wording to an inclusive workplace and just put in by what we mean at MBBC rather than necessarily what some of the more radical HR people around the world mean by that. The only thing I was going to say is that I'm very pleased to see, and the communication section, the positive indicators being written in plain English. This is something I'm constantly badgering Director Shardlow about, and I would hint that we might want to put it in positive indicators level A, because it's something we should encourage across the piece, not just at some of the higher competencies. And it's clean, clear prose is one of the fundamental skills, I think, to doing anything in any sort of professional role these days. But if Ruth, you want to come back on that, otherwise I shall throw it open to the committee again. In which case, is the committee amenable to those suggestions? So I will move that from the chair then. All those in favour? That is unanimous. So, item 10 on the back page, we have the work programme, which seems pretty amenable to me. Does any member of the committee have any comments, questions, queries? Should we take that as read? I don't see any dissent. So that moves us on to item 11. Any other items? I am not aware of any. Nothing's been raised, Maria. So item 12, exclusion of the public and press. Under the Local Government Act, we're going to be dealing with something that's confidential. So I will move from the chair that we exclude the public and press from this meeting and we make sure to switch off the live stream. So I'll move that. Is there a seconder? That is seconded by Councillor Brown. All those in favour? And that is unanimous. So if we could switch off the recording, please.